The many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
Hello? What's up guys, my name is Graham and I run this YouTube channel where I like to talk about anything in the games industry which happens to catch my eye. Today I want to talk about a game that I just got finished playing over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/GrahamPlays. You should totally check it out. And I really loved it, so yeah, I wanted to make a video about it and sort of try and raise awareness for it and make sure that as many people play it as possible, because yeah, it's really cool and it has a really cool backstory about it as well, which I'll get into a little bit, and I think it just deserves support. Without further ado, the game that I want to talk about today is The Forgotten City. Now, what is The Forgotten City, you might ask? The Forgotten City is what I would describe as a heavily narrative-focused first-person adventure game where you play as a person from the present day who finds himself propelled back through time to an ancient underground Roman city. But this is not just any ancient underground Roman city. This specific ancient underground Roman city has been placed under a curse which stipulates that if even one of its occupants commits a single sin, then the entire city will instantly die. Hence,
the many shall suffer for the sins of the one.
He really does love saying that. And what's more, as fate would have it, you happen to have arrived in the city on the very day where someone is destined to commit that sin, thus bringing about doom to the entire city. Thus you are tasked with uncovering the culprit, preventing them from committing a sin, thereby averting the city's downfall. But oh wait, there's more! But on top of all this, for reasons that the game explains, the city's been placed in a protective time loop which kicks in as soon as a sin is committed, thereby resetting time back to the start of the day when you first arrived in the city. So your core path through the game involves you going through these loops, learning as much information as you can on each one, gathering whatever items you may need, and then carrying them over to the next loop and using them to get a little bit further each time until you eventually uncover the central mystery and reach the conclusion of the game. So now that we understand the core concept of the game, what do you actually do in it? How do you go about solving this mystery and saving everyone in the city? You'll spend the overwhelming majority of your time just simply exploring the city, walking around, talking to each of the occupants, learning their stories, learning the various issues that they're having, and picking up on clues for reasons why people might commit a sin, investigating them further, and then ultimately trying to resolve whatever the issue was and getting a bit further towards actually unravelling the whole plot. So, for the most part, it's walking about and talking to people and asking questions and things. There are a few sections in the game which do have some combat in them, although it's fairly rudimentary and it's not a massive part of the game. Now you might be thinking, oh, walking about and talking to people, that feels boring, I want to fucking 360 no-scope people in the nuts. And if that's the case, I'm here to tell you, you are wrong. For the simple reason that the quality of the writing in this game is just so unbelievably good. I cannot stress how impressed I was with it. The overwhelming majority of the individual occupants of the city, of which I think there are around 23, are all compelling characters. They've all got really interesting stories, and each of them almost serve like little mini puzzles for you to uncover, and through doing that you get closer to solving the main mystery. It's also worth pointing out that the voice acting in this game is incredible as well, and that only helps to elevate the standard of the writing even higher. Every one of the performances is flawless, I would say. There was no one single character that I found anything out of place with, anything that maybe didn't quite jive with me. I found them all thoroughly perfect, essentially. In terms of the central mystery surrounding the city, the curse, everything else, I found it thoroughly engaging throughout. It's not a massively long game. I put about 8 hours into it, and during that time I've seen 2 of the game's 4 endings, and yeah, every minute of it I was hooked. It did that thing to me that some of the best games, or some of my favourite games do, where you think, right, I'll just do this one more thing. I'll just go and talk to this one more character. I'll go and turn in this one more little side quest. I'll go and, yeah, just walk over here and then I'll finish. And then the thing that you see when you walk over there and you go to finish is so compelling that you're like, okay, I need to do this next thing, and suddenly it's fucking 2 o'clock in the morning and you've been playing the game for 5 hours. I want to also give some props to the developers. I think it's pretty abundant that they've done quite a lot of research into ancient Roman history, their sort of way of life, their traditions, their mythology as well, surrounding the gods and things they worshipped. Everything in the game's clearly been really thoroughly researched, and there are certain parts of it that are actually quite educational. There are sections where you do learn quite a bit about ancient Roman culture, which is really interesting. It just adds that extra layer on top of everything else that really, really impressed me. I said at the start I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of this game, and I think it's important to bear it in mind, because it really puts into context how impressive it is that I feel the way I do about this game when you consider its beginnings. So it was created by an Australian developer called Modern Storytellers. It was originally released back in 2016 as a Skyrim mod, not as a standalone game, but as a mod for Elder Scrolls Skyrim. It was developed by a core team of 3 people, and the sort of lead creator, I think, has gone on record saying it took him about 1,700 hours to create. I think he was basically making it from the point that Skyrim initially came out all the way through to 2016 when it released. In terms of the mod, it's released in 2016. It got over 3 million downloads. It got an award from the Australian Writers Guild for its writing, which really, again, helps to emphasise the comments I was making about how fucking good the writing is. Seriously, it's so good. And obviously now, the version I'm talking about, it's been released as a standalone game just recently. I played it on PS5, although I think it's the PS4 version I was playing on PS5, because we're still doing that, apparently. But that's another video. So as its own standalone game, I think I paid about £25 for it here in the UK, which I felt was well worth it. Honestly, I can't think of a scenario where I've been more happy to give a developer £25. I would quite happily have paid more for this. Even though I did only play it for about 8 hours, I think it's still well worth it. I mean, if you think you spend more than 25 quid going to the cinema for a couple of hours. So I know, like, when we're talking about games, time and money's not always variable, but it is for some people, because I think it's important to bear in mind if you have literally 25 quid to spend on a game, then you should be aware that it's going to entertain you for about 8 hours, but I think it's thoroughly worthwhile. I'm completely enamoured with it, and I think, considering its humble beginnings, the standard of the writing and the story and all the positive things I talked about, it's so much more impressive knowing that it started as a mod, because writing and things is to that quality is not something you usually see at a modded game generally. There are exceptions, of course, but I mean the standard in this game, it shits on a lot of AAA games. There are games with hundreds of millions of dollars budgets that aren't a patch on this, frankly. And I just, it's so unbelievably impressive when you think about where it started from. So I thought it was important to kind of highlight those humble beginnings. But yeah, I've talked enough. I fucking love it. It's probably my favourite game of this year so far, I think. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that I've played this year that actually came out this year that I enjoyed better. That's how wholeheartedly I would recommend it. I think even if the sort of walking, talky simulator game is not really your thing, I would still give it a bash. As I say, it's pretty cheap. Yeah, go and fucking play it. Just go and play it.
The many.
Oh! The video's over, man. Ha! Ha! Don't make me come up there.